welcome to another video. Today I'm showing you one way in which you can use distress inks. I'm starting out by just putting some plastic down, and then I'm taking a clear acrylic block. Cut some watercolor paper to half of a standard sized card, and then I'm taking my distress inks and I'm smudging them down onto the acrylic block. That first one is very light, so it's not very visible, but this one you can really see. I am using spun sugar, picked raspberry, shaded lilac, and chipped sapphire for this today. When I do this, I prefer to use the mini distress inks, but it also works great with the large ones. With this large one, I'm just using the edge of it to get a little bit of color. Once I've added all that color, I'm using a spray bottle and I'm just spraying some normal water onto this. By using the acrylic block, it makes sure that the inks pull up and become small dots on there. Then I'm taking my paper and I'm just smudging it into the ink. When you lift it up, it will look something like this, and I'm just tapping off the excess color there. Once I've done that, I'm gonna heat set this. It doesn't have to be completely dry, as long as it's almost dry. Once I've heat set that, I'm just turning it around and I'm dabbing it into the pools that have been created. This will create a really cool effect onto the card. When I do this, I just see where I have the pools on my clear block, and then I'm just turning it around and putting an area where I think I need some more color. Once I have done that, I heat set that again. When I do this, I like to move around all the paper so I don't stay in one area for too long. Once that is almost dry, I go back and I add some more color onto this. You can stop here if you want, but I like to go in a second time. If you want, you can also go in a third time, but I liked it how it looked after this time, so it's the last one. Once I'm happy with how it looks, I just heat set that, and as you can see, where I have a lot of ink, it likes to move around as I heat set it, so I just try to move it around into the area I want it. If you want, you can stop here, but I like to spray some water into my hand and then let that drip onto my project. By doing this, the water or the ink on the paper will resist the water and it will go away from the paper. So I just put that on and then I let it dry for a couple of seconds, like 30 seconds. And once I have done that, I go in with a tissue and I just take away the water, and then the color will come with it. As you can see, this creates white dots on the paper. I really like how this looks, and it gives it some more dimension. Once I've done that, I'm taking my cutting board and I'm cutting some sea glass cardstock from Simon Says Stamp in half to create a top folding standard size card. So I'm going to turn it around and use my cutting board to score it as well. Next, I'm taking my Cuddlebug machine and I am adding the Happy die from Simon Says Stamp onto some normal Neenah Solar White 110 pound cardstock. I'm just using some washi tape to keep that in place so it doesn't move around. Then I'm taking my clear plates and then I'm adding that in between. And then I just roll it through the machine. If it doesn't cut properly, you can just add some thin paper underneath and it will give it a bit extra thickness and it will cut perfectly. So once I've cut that out, I'm taking my mini Versamark ink pad and I'm just smishing that on top of the on the paper. This is so that I can emboss it. So now I'm taking some black sparkle embossing powder from Ranger and a tweezer to pick up that piece. I like to keep my embossing powders in containers like this because it's really easy to use them. So I just pick up that spoon and I sprinkle the powder on top of the paper. You can also do this before you cut out the word, but I prefer to do it afterwards because it gives it a bit of extra dimension. So once I've done that once, I'm going back over it with my Versamark and I am adding another layer of embossing. This will make it a bit more covering and it will look a lot nicer. So now I've just put that all on top of the card, and then I'm taking the birthday stamp from the Happy stamp set from Simon Says Stamp, and I'm using my Versamark again. I've kept the happy die on the card so that I can position it correctly. So I'm just stamping that, and then I'm using some white embossing powder from Hero Arts. Now this really it stuck to a lot of areas where I didn't want it, so I tapped it away, but then I also went in with a brush and brushed the extra powder away. Just a normal dry brush. Once I've gotten all the extra powder away, I heat set it and that was done. Now I've taken two balloons, I've stamped one of them and embossed it from the birthday balloon stamp set from Simon Says Stamp, and the other one I've used the balloon dies from Simon Says Stamp. And I'm just using some foam squares to adhere that onto the card. I'm using some Tombow Mono liquid glue to adhere the balloons onto the card. Then I'm taking a thin black pen and I'm just drawing in the strings for those balloons so it looks like they come from underneath the other piece. Next, I'm adding some more Tombow Mono multi-liquid glue onto the bottom of the happy die. I just want it on the bottom because this die will be sticking out the edge. So I'm just putting that on and then I'm pressing it down where I want it. Now this had quite a lot of embossing on it, so I didn't really want to stay on. So I just turned the card around and then pressed down on it to make it stay properly. Once I'd done that, I just folded the card and I used my bone folder to crease the edge. Once I'd done that, my card is done. Here's a picture of the final card. I think this technique is very versatile and you can use it for almost anything. It's great for backgrounds, but also it can be skies and it can be water, it can be anything. You can also mix up the colors and you can create any kind of combinations you want. If you want it to be more subtle, you can use lighter colors and very similar colors, and that will create a really nice subtle background. I really hope you enjoyed this technique and that you watch my other videos. I'll see you next week. Bye!